So this is the video in the continuation of the FastAPI series. So let's do a first quick look what we have covered till now. So we have covered 14 videos, and in the first video, like, we could see a very basic FastAPI, how to create a very basic FastAPI. We could see how to pass the metadata, and we could see how to start the FastAPI, and a few documentation as well. Then we do some kind of refactoring. Rather than passing the metadata hard coded into the code, we pass the metadata into some configuration file. Then within the same configuration file, we set the some database variables, and we set the database variable into some like a .env file. Then we see how to connect with the, so once the database variable has been set, that is like user ID, password, port number, URL, then we see how to connect with the PostgreSQL. And also we have seen how to connect with the SQLite database and what extra argument is required in the SQLite database which is not required in the other database connections. Then we see how to create the tables like in the form of a classes or in the models.py file, and we have to set the relationship between the two tables. Then like when the user will pass the data, so first we have to like perform any kind of data validation. Then we created a schema. We look at the Pytest schema, and we just look at the definition of the dependency injection. What is dependency injection? Then we look at the concept of the password hashing using the passlib module. Then we created our first user endpoint, and so first we just simply created a user endpoint, but rather than defining like all the endpoint into the main.py file, like we define all the routes in some other file and using the module API router. But like this is returning some unnecessary information. Then we see how to hide the unnecessary information using the response model argument. Then we create a test case to test our application. Application means basically just the user endpoint using the Pytest module. Then we see how to test the dependency override. So basically, like when we did the testing in the video number 11, so in the testing itself it is inserting the data into the production database. So but we want the data during the testing, data should be inserted into the test database. So we look at the concept of the dependency override. Then we created the another endpoint because we created two tables, user and the item. So we created the route for the user table, but we have not created the route for the item table. Then in this video we have created the route for the item table as well. Then we perform the test case for the item table. Now if I open my Visual Studio Code, so this is the test case which we have created, like test user route.py. So basically this is the test case, right? And in the item route.py, so this is the test case which we are performing. But all these above information, so till line number 29, it is same in both the files. And if we have to create more and more test case, one approach is pass all the information in each and every file, right? So which doesn't look good, right? So what we will do is we will comment all this information. So let's comment all this information, or just first copy this information, and we will create a, under the test folder we will create a configuration file with the name conf test.py file. So why I choose the name conf.test.py file? So it is a standard name for the Pytest module. So when I run the Pytest command, Pytest first read this configuration test.py file. When we create our test cases, so there are some standards. So if we write our test, the name of the test file, if it start with test underscore, then Pytest will automatically read all the test underscore file, right? Similarly, if there is any file resides into the test folder with the name conf.test.py file, so first it will read the configuration test.py file, and then it will execute our all the test cases. So conf.test.py file is the standard name which we only have to use this. So if I look at the configuration document, So this is like the Pytest official documentation, and I searched the confidence test.py file. So they told that sharing a fixture across multiple files, but you can ignore that. But like just see that like they have using the confidence.py file. They have not used like any other name like config.py file or configuration.py file. So the name is standard. We have to use only this name. So Pytest module will only try to find only this name. So that's why like we have created the name confidence.py file. So in that configuration, what we will do is whatever we are passing here, so we will remove everything from this. So we have removed everything. Now our test is like very simple. So here we are using JSON. So let me import JSON, because I can remove JSON from here. So in this it is not required. It is required only this, because here we are using the JSON module, and also like we are using the client. So client is like not client will be automatically like get from here only. So but we have to pass the client. So let's pass the client. So we are passing the client. So now our test case is very simple. Now the like whatever the information we are using unnecessary, we have like passing into the configuration file. So no need to duplicate like all the information in all the test cases. So just save it. So I have saved it. So similarly we have already passed this information, all the first 29 lines. So we will remove all this information from the test_item route, and let's use the import.json, and we have to pass the client. Okay, so now like we have like created our like two test cases. Like, basically test case was already like cleared, like created, but we have like manage it. Okay, now look at the configuration.test.py file. So if you look at this thing like a client thing, right? So client is basically a fixture. So it will try to search this client. When I say fixture is just consider it as a function. So client is a kind of a function which it will try to find. But where it will try to find? It will try to find into the configuration.test.py file. But here we don't have any like function, right? So what we will do? So it will try to find a function with the name client. So we will like create a function client. Now what it will do? It will where is, so it will return this client. So let me cut this, because we are like defining the client above. So it will just return this client. So you can use the return statement, or either you can use the yield statement. Yield is basically a generator, but we have to use the yield statement. I will explain you in the coming videos why we are using the yield statement rather than the return statement. Right, but for the time being, just focus on, because the main motive for this video is how to manage our test cases. So rather than passing like all this information duplicated across all the test file, we should pass like this information into the confidence.test.py file. So we know if we are using the Pytest module, so the configuration file name start with the confidence.py file. So we have just like cut that thing, and I have pasted this. That's it. I have not did any a single change till now. And now like we see whatever the argument here it is passing. So it, when I run this test case, it will try to search this argument into the configuration test.py file. So this argument by default it is considered as a function. So whatever the input parameter passed in the test underscore test functions, it will consider as a functions. Basically it is considered as a fixtures, but leave the term fixture. So just consider it is considered as a function. So we have to define the function here. All right, so we are like we have defined the function here. So let do one more thing. We will like, because this is a function, we are not calling this function. So what we will do is, right, we will cut this function as well, and we will call this function within this function, because we are calling only client function. So we are not calling like this def override get db function, but we want this function. So let's do one thing. When the client function will be called, this automatically will get set. but we are we defined the function here, but so this line should be, we have to cut from here and we have to define after this function, because we have to override like our test case. Now everything is done, just one thing is left. So as I said, like this is considered as a fixture. Fixture is basically a function. So I have to define this function is, so right now it is called a function, but it is not a fixture. So I have to define it is a fixture. So how should I define? So there is a command, just type @pytest dot fixture. That's it. Now what is Pytest? So Pytest is a module which I have to import. So let me import that. Import Pytest. So I have imported the Pytest. Everything is okay. So Pytest dot fixture. So now it is considered as a fixture. So fixture is basically that function which will run like first before like actually executing the test case. So when I run the Pytest command, so what Pytest bit command will do, it will like execute our test case, right? But we are passing the fixture here, client or you can say function, or you can say fixture. So what it will do is, if the fixture is being passed, so fixture will execute first, and then any test case will be like you can say I will execute. So the fixture will get executed first. So if I go to the Google, so confidence.py file is basically a way, a file to share the fixture across multiple files. So now you can understand. So we have the multiple files. One is the test underscore item row.py, one is the test underscore user.py file. So test underscore user.py file also using the client as a fixture, and this will also use as a fixture because like all the 29 lines we have deleted, and the same 29 lines we have deleted from this line. So we have defined like a common fixture like in the confidence.py file. So confidence.py file is basically a file which will like hold the fixture which has been shared across multiple files. So it has a fixture, and this fixture is being shared across multiple files. So the one way which we see earlier in the last video, like don't use confidence.py file and repeat all these 29 lines in all the test cases. So but unnecessary we are repeating the code, right? So rather than repeating the code, when we have the facility of this configuration confidence.py file, so then why can't we use that functionality, right? So we created one confidence.py file and we created one fixture. So now we understand what is confidence.py file and what is fixture. Now look at the definition of the fixture. So fixtures are basically a function, because I defined using the def keyword only, right, which will run before each test function. So before actually testing like you can say before actually running the test case, the first fixture will be run. And why would define it called as fixture? Because if you see like our original test case, like test item.row.py file, so before actually defining this function, we have defined all above 29 lines, right? So it means all those 29 lines should be executed before this test create and user function. And similarly same those 29 lines were like in the test underscore item root.py file. So it means those 29 lines should be executed before test underscore create item. So when there are like the things which should be executed every time, it could be database connection, like so in our case it is a kind of a database connection only. So but there is some a little bit more extra concept, like we are creating a test connection and we are overriding the test database session, right? So the things which needs to be executed before the test case, so that is generally called as a fixture. So that's why like we define it as a fixture rather than like defining. So otherwise I have not did even either like a single change, right? So now the fixture is defined, right? So let's try to execute that. So but before minute, so less RAM. So that's why like I generally like while doing the coding I use the like a terminal. but today I have to like do cut and paste a very long file, so that's why like I use the VS Code, but it is getting hanged. Just bear with me. Okay, so we have like defined dot route.py file. What actually we are passing the title, and in the models.py file, and title is not a primary key, so that is okay. And in the routers, so under the item, so not this, so under the owner id, so owner id we are passing 1, so one owner id should exist, otherwise test case will fail. Along with that, this test case test user.to, so this should not exist. So let me first cross check whether this exists or not. Because if the primary key, then it will like fail with the some key, so it will fail with the some integrity issue. So let me check, open the database. So this is basically a browser to browse the SQLite file. So this is basically a, because SQLite in the form of a files, so this will open the files. Better now I can close the VS Code, because now it will unnecessarily get hanged. Okay, so in desktop we have the testing folder, and under the testing folder I have the test.db. so let me open that. Okay, item 2 is there, fine. And under the users we have the test user 2. So test user 2 already like is there, so we will like update our test cases, so otherwise it will fail with the integrity issue. Let's insert the test user 3, where I am typing test user 3, and here we will like cross verify test user 3 only. Okay, so now everything looks okay, and let me update the password as well, test user 3. So everything looks okay, so it will insert. So in the insertion there is no there will not be an issue. Now it will like insert the item, and in the code we are passing the owner id as a 1, and owner id 1 like already exists, right? So let's try to execute the Pytest case, so whether there is any issue or not, whether our test.py file will work or not, whether the fixture will work or not, so we will see that. So let me open the terminal. So terminal has been opened, so let me activate the environment. Source env bin activate. And one more thing to like I forget to mention, like when we run the like our test case, so don't need to like start the application. So I like my application is not running, but still like it will like do the testing. So how it will do the testing when the application is not running, how it will like going to the particular URL. So that is like internally because we are using the test client function rather than the response function, because if we use the response keyword, not a keyword but response modules, then if we have to use response.get response.post, then it will expect some URL, and that URL should be up, but we are using the test client, and the test client doesn't like automatically, I think internally it will like start the application and it will like automatically test. So we have activated the environment. So let's my system is hanging. Pytest -v. So I am hitting the Pytest. It will first read the configuration.test.py file. It will like call the fixture, and then it will like perform the test cases. I think I have to close the VS Code, otherwise unnecessary it will get hanged. Let me close it. for this video because like it is unnecessary, because my VM has very less RAM. Okay, the first test case failed and the create user is passed. And why the first test case got failed is because of unique constraint. Okay, they told that like title should be unique. Okay, so title should be unique, and we are like passing the right. Let me update the test cases. Nano test underscore item route, and let me update the title is equal to item 3 control X Y, and let me update the user as well, because user test case already passed, so it will insert the data already. So if you want to cross verify, you can cross verify from the browser as well. If I do the refresh, so user 3 has already been inserted, so that's why like I am updating the test cases. So test 4, ideally like in the real application, what actually will do is like after inserting all these things, they generally like roll back the transactions or deleted the database. Pytest dot minus y. Oh my god, what happened? Earlier it worked, now it will not work. What happened? Password authentication. Why trying to connect with the Postgres SQL now? Okay, so I am running in the wrong folder, so I have to run into the testing folder. Pytest minus v. Okay, I forgot to change test user assertion error. Shut. cd tests everything, something is missing. Test underscore item. So let me update the item 4. That is the benefit of the test, because generally like even earlier I thought like why we have to create the test when I manually already like test my application. But test case is like very important, because as soon as like we are growing our application, so there could be many times like earlier test cases gets stopped failing, stopped working. So now I have updated, hopefully it should work now. Pytest minus v. So now both the test cases has been passed. So basically what we did is, so if we see test user, so now our test case is very simple, nothing is there, right? And if we look at the other test code, so nothing is there. We have removed all the duplicate code and we have put into the configuration file, because we are using the Pytest module, and the Pytest will use the conf test.py file. We have just cut and paste here, and we have like defined a few things, just put in a function, and we like define that function as a fixture, and fixture is a like you can say attribute or a function in the Pytest module, and we have imported the Pytest as well, and that's it. So that's the end of the video. Thank you.